precision that even a razor blade can't slip between them. And here's the part that sends shivers down the spine. Its alignment with true north is accurate to within a fraction of a single degree. Now pause for a moment. This was built more than 4,500 years ago, without cranes, without trucks, without modern machinery. And yet, even today's top engineers admit, we still can't fully explain how it was done. So here's the question. Did the ancient Egyptians really build this colossal wonder with simple tools and manpower alone? Or is there a missing chapter of history that we've overlooked? Because the Great Pyramid isn't just stone stacked on stone. It hides mathematical secrets, astronomical alignments, and perhaps even untouched chambers waiting to be revealed. Some researchers whisper about lost civilizations. Others hint at forbidden discoveries sealed away by time. One thing is certain. The more you look at the Great Pyramid, the less sense it makes. And this is just the beginning of our journey. In the next chapter, we'll dig deeper into the unanswered questions of ancient construction, because once you realize the impossibility of the Great Pyramid, you'll start to wonder, what else have we been missing? The deeper you study the Great Pyramid, the stranger it becomes. Imagine this. Its four sides are aligned almost perfectly to true north. Not just roughly, within 3/60ths of a single degree. Even with GPS, satellites, and laser levels, modern engineers struggle to achieve this kind of accuracy on structures a fraction of its size. How could people, thousands of years ago, supposedly armed with ropes and wooden plumb lines, achieve such astronomical precision? And it doesn't stop there. Inside the pyramid, colossal granite blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, were transported and lifted into place. These weren't soft limestone. This was granite, one of the hardest stones on Earth. Yet many blocks display cuts so straight, so smooth, they look as though they were sliced by giant machines. You can run your hand along them and feel edges sharper than anything a copper chisel should have been able to carve. In fact, modern experiments have tried to replicate these techniques. Archaeologists using copper chisels on granite managed only shallow scratches before their tools bent, dulled, or broke. Moving a single block with wooden sledges across sand required enormous manpower, and that was just one. Now imagine positioning hundreds of these monsters inside a pyramid, stacked with millimeter precision. The math doesn't add up. Something about the official story just doesn't sit right. If copper chisels couldn't do it, if ropes and manpower weren't enough, then what did they use? This is where the mystery deepens. Because hidden in the stones of the pyramid are clues, strange tool marks, impossible alignments, and evidence that suggests knowledge far beyond what history gives them credit for. And that leads us to the next question. Was there an ancient technology, now lost to time, that made this all possible? If you've ever seen the narrow corridors of the Great Pyramid, you'll know they are suffocatingly dark. No windows. No natural openings. Just stone passageways that twist and drop deep into the earth. The workers building them would have needed light. Constant, reliable light, to see what they were doing. The traditional explanation. Torches. Simple flames burning wood or oil. It makes sense, at first. But here's the problem. Inside the Great Pyramid, there is no soot. No black residue on the ceilings. No smoke stains on the walls. Not even in the deepest chambers where workers would have spent hours. If fire had been the source of light, the evidence should still be there, etched into the stone for eternity. Yet the surfaces remain clean. Some argue they may have used polished copper mirrors to reflect sunlight deep into the corridors. But anyone who has experimented with that theory knows the flaws. Light scatters, weakens, and dies out long before it reaches the lower chambers. The pyramid is too complex, too vast, for a simple chain of mirrors to work. So we are left with a question no one has convincingly answered. How did they illuminate the inside? The lack of soot doesn't just collapse the torch theory. It forces us to think in entirely new directions. Were they using some form of lost lighting technology? Could there have been a method, chemical, electrical, or something we don't yet understand, that allowed them to work without fire? One thing is certain. Whatever guided them through those dark stone arteries, it wasn't ordinary flames. Which leaves us with a haunting question. If fire wasn't their light, then what was? If the pyramids challenge our ideas of engineering, the Great Sphinx challenges our very timeline of history. For decades, Egyptologists agreed. The Sphinx was built around 2500 BC, carved during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre. A grand guardian to his pyramid. That's the accepted story. But then came a voice that shook the academic world. Author and researcher John Anthony West. West noticed something strange. The erosion on the Sphinx didn't look like wind and sand damage, the kind you'd expect in the desert. Instead, it looked like water damage. Deep vertical fissures, rounded edges, and smooth patterns that only heavy rainfall could create. He turned to geologist Robert Schoch, who studied the stone firsthand. His conclusion was staggering. This wasn't the work of desert winds at all. It was the result of centuries of heavy rain. But here's the problem. Egypt hasn't seen heavy, sustained rainfall for thousands of years. The last time this region experienced such wet conditions was at the end of the Ice Age, around 12,000 years ago. If the Sphinx really bears the scars of that ancient climate, then it must have been built long before the reign of Khafre. Long before dynastic Egypt even existed. That would make the Sphinx twice as old as Egypt itself. Of course, mainstream Egyptologists push back hard. They argue the evidence has been misread, that other factors caused the erosion. But the visual proof is difficult to ignore. And if West and Schoch are even partly right, the implications are explosive. It means Egypt's history doesn't start 5,000 years ago. It begins much, much earlier. And if the Sphinx is older than civilization itself, we're left to ask, who carved it? And what else did they know that we've forgotten? Power. In modern Egypt, no one held more of it over the ancient world than Dr. Zahi Hawass. Often seen in his trademark hat, he became the global face of Egyptian archaeology, deciding who could dig, what could be published, and even which questions were allowed to be asked. For decades, Hawass controlled the keys to the pyramids, tombs, and temples. But with that control came criticism. Many researchers accused him of hiding evidence and silencing alternative voices. Some claimed that discoveries that didn't fit the official timeline were quickly shut down or dismissed before the public ever heard about them. And here's the controversy. Hawass wasn't just protecting Egypt's heritage, he was shaping its narrative. By rejecting ideas that suggested the pyramids or the Sphinx were older than dynastic Egypt, he preserved the mainstream story, while fueling suspicions of a cover-up. Of course, supporters say he defended Egypt from pseudo-archaeology. But critics argue that true science welcomes questions, and Hawass seemed determined to close doors rather than open them. And yet, history has a way of slipping through the cracks. Whispers of forbidden chambers, strange anomalies in radar scans, and reports of discoveries that never reached the headlines suggest that secrets may lie just beyond the walls of silence. If that's true, then the real story of Egypt isn't just about ancient builders, it's about the gatekeepers who decide what the world is allowed to know. But sometimes, despite the strongest walls of secrecy, something extraordinary manages to escape. And what came next shook even the skeptics. In 1993, German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a small robot named Unopened, crawling deep into the narrow shafts of the Great Pyramid. What it found stunned the world. At the end of one shaft lay a sealed limestone door, complete with mysterious copper handles. This wasn't a dead end. It was a barrier, deliberately placed by ancient builders. Years later, another robot was sent in, only to discover that behind the first door was a second sealed door. 2 locked passages, hidden away for over 4,000 years. What were they meant to protect? A treasure? A text? Or perhaps, a truth too explosive to reveal? And the mystery only deepened. In 2017, a team of scientists used muon scanning technology, essentially cosmic X-rays, to peer inside the pyramid's core. What they discovered shook archaeology again. A giant hidden void, nearly the size of a passenger plane, concealed above the Grand Gallery. The mainstream celebrated it as one of the most important discoveries in decades. But then, silence. No excavation. No exploration. The Egyptian authorities quickly shut the door on further inquiry. To this day, the void remains unentered, its purpose unknown. So we are left to ask, why? Why would Egypt, so eager to attract tourists and showcase its wonders, refuse to investigate chambers that could change everything we know about the Great Pyramid? Could it be that what lies inside doesn't fit the official narrative, That it might prove the pyramid was more than just a pharaoh's tomb? The secrecy only fuels speculation. Scholars, fringe researchers, and the public alike are left staring at sealed doors, locked chambers, and a hidden void that begs to be explored. What could they possibly be hiding? And if these hidden spaces are ever opened, will they reveal treasures of gold, or truths that rewrite history itself? In the 1990s, engineer and researcher Robert Bauval proposed a radical idea, the Orion correlation theory. According to Bauval, the three pyramids of Giza are not randomly placed, nor designed simply for grandeur. Their alignment mirrors the stars of Orion's belt, and not as they appear today, but as they shone in the sky around 10,500 BC. This wasn't just a coincidence of three dots on a star map. The ancient Egyptians worshipped Osiris, god of the afterlife and rebirth, whose celestial form was believed to be none other than Orion himself. If the pyramids were intended as a gateway to eternity, then aligning them with Orion was more than symbolic. It was a declaration of divine purpose, written in stone. But the implications are staggering. For the pyramids to mirror Orion's belt at that date, their designers would have needed advanced astronomical knowledge, calculations in precession, and a mastery of the night sky that, according to mainstream history, Bronze Age civilizations simply should not have possessed. And yet, the alignment is undeniable. Giza becomes more than a necropolis. It becomes a cosmic map, a bridge between Earth and the stars. So the question emerges, how did the builders know? Were they inheritors of a forgotten science, knowledge carried from an earlier, lost civilization? Or were they gazing at the heavens with a purpose and precision that modern archaeologists still struggle to explain? If the ancients understood the heavens with such mastery, then where did that knowledge come from? The answer may lie not in the stones, but in the legends, stories of gods who once walked among men. What if Egypt was not the beginning of civilization, but a legacy of something far older, something almost erased from history? This is the theory championed by writer and researcher Graham Hancock. He argues that long before the pyramids rose, there existed a global advanced civilization, destroyed by cataclysm but remembered through myth as Atlantis, Zep Tepi, the first time, or the golden age of the gods. And the evidence may be scattered across the earth. In Turkey, buried beneath 20 feet of soil, lies Göbekli Tepe, a temple complex that dates back nearly 12,000 years. Thousands of years before Stonehenge, long before Mesopotamia, and even before the rise of agriculture. Its massive carved pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, are aligned with celestial patterns. The site challenges the idea that hunter-gatherers lacked organization, mathematics, or engineering. Someone, somehow, built a sanctuary of stone at the dawn of time. Then there are the mysteries of Egypt itself. At Abydos and in the underground chambers of the Serapeum, archaeologists have uncovered enormous granite boxes, cut with such precision that even today's engineers marvel at their accuracy. Each weighs over 70 tons, yet the joints are crafted to within fractions of a millimeter. These are not the crude tools of a primitive Bronze Age. They suggest technologies or techniques that we have either forgotten or never fully understood. Could it be that the Egyptians were not inventors of these skills, but inheritors? Custodians of an ancient science passed down from an earlier age of humanity, one that fell into ruin, leaving behind fragments of knowledge encoded in stone? The thought is unsettling. It suggests history is not a straight line from primitive to advanced, but a cycle of rise, destruction, and rebirth. Civilizations flourish, collapse, and leave behind traces that confuse the future.